You're listening to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast. I'm your host, Nadine Bozeman. In this podcast, I'm sharing business systems and strategies specifically tailored to the bridal sewing industry so you can build your own modern and profitable bridal alterations business. Join me as I also get to chat with fellow seamstresses and share their personal success stories. I'm so glad you're here and that we can grow together in this unique trade. All right, welcome back to another episode of Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress. I kind of spiced up my background today because I'm in my shop recording today with DeeDee Anderson, and we are here to talk about the upcoming symposium. So I'm super excited to hear the details, to hear how the planning's been coming together. I want to know who your speakers are, what we have to look forward to. So welcome back, DeeDee. DeeDee's a veteran of the podcast. She's already been here.
Yes. Yes.
So you know the drill. But I guess for our listeners who aren't familiar with DeeDee Anderson, you want to tell us about Anderson Academy? Give us like a brief synopsis, and then before we dive into your symposium.
Okay. The Anderson Alteration Academy, Bridal Alteration Academy is, just a sec, I have to, that we're recording. Okay. The little blue dot was over there saying, okay.
Yeah.
The Academy is 3 levels of courses from beginner to advanced, but even beginner is fairly advanced. This is for bridal alterations exclusively. And by the time you're done with level 3, you are considered a master bridal alteration seamstress. You're well trained, and it's very extensive. It's an extensive class. It's an expensive class. Mm-hmm. So expensive.
Those should go hand in hand. Yes.
But it covers everything. It's a great reference library to have. Once you're done, you can always go back. I think that's the best part. If you go to an in-person class, which I love, you may not actually need that stuff for a long time. And then when you do have that crazy dress that thing happens, you're having to try and pull it out of your brain. Mm-hmm. Just having a video online reference library that you can just pull up for any references that you need for whatever's you're working on that week works really good. And so I like this technology stuff is kind of cool about that.
Yeah. And I like how you say it's extensive because it's great to have all of the details like in one place. So I know you have been such a great resource for women in our industry. So thank you for what you're doing. And I just saw today on Instagram that you have a new offer on some kind of like side tailoring seams, whatever. So there's always like new little updates coming along.
But yes, I always have little cheap classes, workshops, and not expensive, but they give you a taste of what it is. And they have a lot of good value in them. There's a lot of good information.
Yeah. And then you can just kind of like get a sense of how you teach and, before you dive in. But one of your biggest projects, an annual project that you host, is this symposium. And this is an online summit. I know that you've invited in the past other leading seamstresses who are educators in the space too. And so tell us about like how you first put together the first symposium and like what inspired it and what did you learn maybe from the first one and how have you been growing since?
Oh, that's such a good question, Nadine. I love that. My first one was off the shoulders, off the shoulder sleeves.
Okay.
It was back when
you
Meghan
pick a
Markle,
different theme every year, correct?
Yes, every year is a different theme, but that was my first one because I thought Meghan Markle had just got married, and so everybody wanted off the shoulder and did not realize that there was not one picture of her raising her arms. Just
no YMCA happening. Yeah, no.
and any bridal pictures in magazines, they're not raising their arms, and there's a reason. And so I put together a bunch of training videos. My whole point of every symposium, especially that first one, is I just wanted to gather our tribe and do some training together. I wanted, and this is still my point, is to just elevate everybody. Just make our career, our bridal seamstresses, our industry well-trained and just elevate everybody and just connect us together. A really cool story about the very first one.
And what year was this? What year was the first
Oh
one?
my goodness. It was the year after COVID
Okay.
because I launched my academy March. I mean, no idea. And then like a week after I launched my
Wow.
academy, everything was shut down. I was like, well, I don't know that that matters for
Yeah,
me.
exactly. It's already online anyway.
Yeah. And so it actually worked out just fine. But this first one with the off the shoulder, back then in the olden days, there's pretty much me and Brenda LeBolt. And
Hmm.
Brenda LeBolt was the amazing shark in the ocean that had all these beautiful training videos, everything. I honestly did not know, because I'm not a computer person, that she was on the internet. It wasn't until the guy that was helping me develop, he says, well, why don't you see who your competition is? And I said, what? I have competitions? And he says, well, just check, just Google. And then I found her and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I'd have known this, I'd have never even started this academy. She's doing it all.
Oh
Why am I doing this?
no.
And
But
it's,
looking back, like it is so different. Like what you two offer is so
yes,
different. You complement each other so well. I know you have a really good friendship. It's like so
yes.
thinking like hearing this is comical.
Well, but you got to remember, I was brand new and she
Yeah.
was not.
Yeah.
At any rate, she had a really good off the shoulder alteration video,
Hmm.
YouTube video. It was great. And I debated for a couple days. I cried over it and I was very
Oh.
scared. And I asked her, I just
Mhm.
emailed her and asked her, can I use that video on my symposium? And I was so scared. I'd never talked to her. This was my first communication with her. And that sweet woman, so welcoming, so
Mhm.
generous, so absolutely, of course, just make sure you state where it came from. And
Right.
I'm like, yes, absolutely. So generous and just put me in that right mindset, that generous, let's all work together, let's
Mhm.
get everybody trained mindset. It came from Brenda LeBolt
Mhm.
and her sweet, even though I was reading an email, I was reading it in her southern little drawl. And I
Yeah.
just cried and I was so happy. And that was when the idea that these symposiums can be a big collaboration.
Mhm.
And every year I've done more and more getting the experts all together and us talking with each other. And what a treat for me. What an honor to have these super skilled seamstresses. And yes, I am super skilled, but others too. There's a
Yeah.
lot of us, and
Yeah.
just building each other and just getting our little tribe. I mean, this is a very specialized group,
Yeah. Mhm.
getting us all together.
So
And
how did you get the word out that first year, especially when you're saying like you're not super comfortable with tech at the time you weren't. So how did you get people to sign up and then what was the turnout like that first year?
okay, the first year I mostly relied on paid ads because I had this manager guy who I have since moved on from. I
But
paid
at the time,
about,
paid ads were a thing and paid ads really worked. Like now it's like, there's
well,
mixed reviews, but
it did not work,
oh
but
no.
most of them came from the Facebook groups. I asked permission on the Facebook groups and they all said, yeah, sure, as long as it's free. And I said, yes, absolutely, it's free. And so I don't think we got a single person from I spent like $1,500 on ads, and I don't think we got a single person from the ads. They all just came from the Facebook groups I was on.
Mhm. Wow.
And we had about 100 that
Mhm.
first
Wow, that's
time.
great. Oh my gosh.
And we, a lot more attended than came to the live webinar.
Right.
But the live webinar was so fantastic. We had this sweet guy on there from England who the time zone was so crazy. We did two, one in the morning, one in the evening. The evening one, he was like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh my
Darling,
gosh.
darling, a sweet guy. And he had such good information. And everyone, all of the experts that I brought on that were so helpful. And it just felt so good. Everybody just trying to share knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and help. So
Yeah.
that was really cool. And when it was done, I was just blown away. I'm like, wow,
It
did
worked.
that just happen? Did I do that? Just this little rookie. It was
That's amazing. Like when you said 100, I was like, oh, I thought you were going to say like, oh, 30 or whatever. That's a great number. Oh my gosh.
no,
Yeah.
no. It's been we get quite a few people that sign up and attend. Not so many come to the live webinar, and I wish
Yeah.
they would. They'd have
Yeah.
so much more fun. Every
Yeah.
year, the webinar gets bigger and bigger, but right from the start, people have wanted
Mm-hmm.
to. I mean, some of those Facebook groups are pretty large,
Mm-hmm.
and they are interested. Back
Yeah.
then, you could say a live webinar without people thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get
Right. And all these email
a
lists.
sell
Yeah.
this," which we do not do at
Yeah.
all. Which,
Mm-hmm.
I should say right from the start, the sponsors, because I never actually attended a live webinar and I kind of made up the word symposium because I didn't know what to call it. I mean, I'm not an internet person, and
I
so
couldn't have
I
made up the word.
well, I know it's a real word, but I didn't know what to
That
call
is
what
so
we were
funny.
doing.
Hey, it worked though. You picked a good
Yeah.
word because it fits. That's so
We
funny.
went through a lot. I wanted something sophisticated.
Yes.
That's my brand is trying to be
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated, and that
We're always trying to
word,
find those words that match our brand. Am I right?
yes, yes, and yeah, my sponsors. The first one I had those sponsors, and that blew me away. And I
Yeah.
cried a lot because I asked WAWAC. I always buy a lot of WAWAC supplies, and I asked him if they would sponsor me, and they, not knowing me or anything other than that I was on their account and obviously bought
Mm-hmm.
supplies from them. A lady called me. I was actually in Joanne's store buying fabric,
How fitting.
and
Yes.
her name was Rebecca. And she said, "Hey, we would love to sponsor you. We will give you $200 in products for whatever you need to build your business." And I
Oh,
said,
that's
"Well, actually, I
awesome.
wanted to give it away. Can I give
Mm-hmm.
away the product?" She's like, "Well, you can use it any way you want. We just really want to encourage your business." And I'm like, "Who does that? Who
Mm-hmm.
does that?" And I decided I would buy my own supplies and use it as, for the door prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I asked Diana Casey. She was on a Facebook group with me, and she is so darling. And she was like, "Absolutely. I will." I mean, when you're asking for product
Mm-hmm.
instead of money,
Right. I've noticed that too.
they can, well, their hands are free to be more
Mm-hmm.
generous.
Right. Exactly.
Um, I mean, Rebecca from WowWack has to present this to their marketing team
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. But so we really, really market them well and do video ads about them and try and be as thankful and grateful as possible. But right from the start has been WowWack, Diana Casey with her bridal wholesale outlet, and Lace and Company. Lace and Company is out of Salt Lake. I drive down there, and they were right from the start. Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's
And
awesome.
those three have followed me every year. And sometimes they'll ask me, "Hey, when's the symposium coming up? I want to do it again." Sometimes I ask, but they're always immediately, "Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes."
Yeah.
And I just think, how cool is that companies will do that.
Mm-hmm.
I have since attended live webinars, and realized that most people give out a t-shirt or a mug. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. I thought it was a great idea to give out, like $600 in products. I didn't realize how different and unique that is.
Oh yeah.
And also that I don't sell anybody's names or any
Mm-hmm.
of that kind of stuff.
So how do you get the products? Is it like these are door prizes that you'll ship out?
No, what I do is I get their names.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be attending. They have to be there on the live webinar. And then I shoot those out to like WowWack and the other ones. And then I give them, we make sure that we have their email. That's important. Our first one, I think we had one that we really had to hunt down her email. We didn't have, because it was a strange random name.
Yeah.
On the live video. And we email them telling them the procedure, blah, blah, blah. Like WowWack will set up an account with a credit of whatever. They like us to split it up into a few people.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it'll usually be 100 and 100. Used to be 50, but I was like, I'm going to lose my mind trying to keep track of all these people. And so it's down to like 100 for, split it up, 200. And then they like, WowWack just does that. I know Diana Casey is like, here's my veils. Which ones do you want? And she'll just show them.
Amazing.
And Lace and Company just gives them a credit again to an accountant so that they have $200 in there, or 100.
Yeah.
Each person. And then they just get
that makes it more fun. Like, that's an awesome door prize. Like $100 is great. Like you can get a bunch of stuff for $100. That's so cool.
Well, and it's stuff that bridal alteration people need.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, who can't use some lace, veils? I mean, and Diana has all kinds of other stuff. She has lace. She has everything. And WowWack, I mean, everybody has a standing order going at WowWack.
Oh, yeah.
So,
in fact, I have one open now because I'm like, oh no, I'm running out of my Tex 40. So I got to reload that.
Yeah, everybody does. And so, and I think they like that. They know that these are professionals that actually go through a lot of product. And so it's a great
partnership
fit for them. And obviously after these years, I think this is our 5th symposium, they're still immediately saying yes. So obviously it's working for them. It's working great for me. I really do just want to cry at their generosity. That's just crazy.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's like that's such a great attitude to have too, because when you have that outlook as you're working with people and you're just so you're so grateful for generosity, it's like you're going to find that more too. You know what I mean? What you're focusing on. So that's awesome.
Yes.
So good to hear.
Yes. Like you saying, hey, I want to be part of this. And I'm like, Nadine wants to be part of this. Yay. How exciting.
Yeah. I was so excited to get your email. I was like, woohoo, let's do this. And I love the theme that you chose.
Yes.
So are we allowed to talk about that? It's
absolutely
right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So the theme this year is dealing with Bridezillas, which, oh my gosh. Because I know actually when you came on the podcast before, we had talked about difficult stories or whatever, or like kind of our horror stories. And sometimes there's this stigma, well, not sometimes, a lot of times there's this stigma that if you have a bridezilla, you're doing something wrong. Or on the flip side, it's all the bride's fault and there's nothing that we can learn from the situation. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this like either or. So I think this will be a great topic. And how about you tell us who the speakers will be?
Okay.
Your panel.
We have, first of all, our guest expert panelist that will be on the webinar will be Brenda Breitnmoser. She is from Canada and she's a teacher. She's one of my ASDP buddies. She teaches bridal alterations and she does them.
Awesome.
And we filmed up at ASD conference together in Portland. So fun to see her. She's darling. She's come down to my house and filmed before. She did a baby bump. We did a baby bump before. Another very generous person. And I love that. So lots of experience from her. I just filmed this morning with Kirstie Gilbert.
Yay.
Great stories from Kirstie and great wisdom. And next we have Adrienne Gonzales. Oh, I've already filmed with her too. And her wisdom, so good. But she's going to be making a downloadable print off with some great information that will be great to just have inside your little clipboard. A beautiful little,
like when you're going through a situation,
strategies
have this. Oh wow, that's great. Okay,
for how to deal with them as they're
what a cool resource
in the thick of it. Some great strategies, and I love that. Plus, we're going to do one more with her because she was at the end saying, "Oh, I wish I talked," and I'm like, "One more Zoom, Adrienne." We're going to do one more, and and you,
Yes.
Nadine.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay. Yay. So
So
I'm going to
thank
be
you.
talking about how to recover from the Bridezillas. Like, what do you do
Yes.
afterwards so that it's not hanging on to you forever, that you're not dragging this thing with you the rest of your season, and how we can really use like situations with Bridezillas to
Yeah.
better ourselves and better our businesses and just not let it be a trauma. Because I mean, it's kind of a joke, hey, it's trauma, but it is like
It is.
it can really scar you, and just depending on this scenario or how heightened the emotions are in the midst of it, like it can just be really damaging. So
Really.
I'm excited to be talking
Yes.
about that. So then when people register, okay, so what's like the timeline? Like how does that work? Because you
Okay.
mentioned, there's the live portion and then there's the pre-recorded stuff. So walk us through
Yeah.
the week.
Okay. So January 5th, 2025. So this coming January 5th, it opens. And we give you access to this landing page that has all of these videos, training videos. We've got ebook chapters that go through Bridezilla stuff. We have Brenda LeBolt. She is going to be doing a exclusive video that deals with the Bridezilla stuff. I'm really looking forward to what Brenda brings. I appreciate her support. She has
Mm-hmm.
always been such a kind mentor to me. I just really appreciate her. We and so those are just anytime you want to get on, you can just click on the training as you want. We are also going to have two, I guess you'd call them links, where you can write in your own Bridezilla story and we will be
Oh, that
posting
would be fun.
them. And and then we also have another link. We always have a link where if you have questions for our specialist, our
Mm-hmm.
our guest panelist, you can submit those questions. And then at the live webinar, we go through those questions first
Mm-hmm.
before we get to questions that people have just in the chat box
Right.
and stuff like that.
That sounds
So
great.
that part's going to be fun. There's always coupons from our sponsors. I love that part.
So it
And
sounds like when you log
yeah,
in, so starting on the 5th, you have access to all these pre-recorded trainings that are coming from your
yes,
panelists. And then on the
yes.
11th is when there's this live webinar
Live
where
webinar.
all the panelists will be present and will be able to
Yes,
answer questions in real time. And how many people
yes.
typically log into that webinar? How many are attending?
Okay. I would say last year, 45, and I'm hoping for quite a few more. My email list has grown exponentially, and so there are quite a few more aware.
Awesome.
And so
Yes.
I'm hoping not more than 100, or things might get messy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm very optimistic, but hopefully not over. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Can't shut
deluge.
anything
So,
down. So yeah.
yeah. So get in on time because you may not get in if you don't.
Yeah, and I
Um,
love that. That's such a great time of year because it's like the beginning of the year. We're all
yes,
thinking about, like we just celebrated the new year. We're getting back into routine. Like I love that first week a new year, when it's like I'm still
yes,
kind of home in my PJs, but like I'm thinking about all the things I want to do in the year to come. And so that's just a great
yeah.
a date.
Great time for training,
Yeah. Hmm.
especially free training because no one
Yeah.
has money in January.
Right.
And so, so free
Best of
training
both
is the
worlds.
best training.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
it
tell us
is.
where to
And then 1
register.
o'clock. Now, where to register?
This will be in
Oh,
the
you
show
can
notes
go
too.
on my website, theandersonacademy.com, and there's some links right on there if you go to my website. And you have to put theandersonacademy.com
Got it.
because Anderson Academy was already gone, and I think
You
it's
have
a
to have
military.
OV, yes. Okay, and I'll be sharing it too. This will be in our show notes for sure, and I'll be we'll all be sharing it on the Instagram as well. But yeah,
Okay.
if you can just carve out some time like during holiday season and have this kind of planned in your calendar so like this will be part of your holiday wind down, and it's so neat that you're able to just absorb the lessons in your own time. And I think too, like hearing
Yes.
from different people how we all process bridezilla experiences, and to see too that we all still go through it. Just last year, I had a
Yes.
Brenda. It was actually last Thanksgiving. It was like this time last year, and she had, it was like she said she was going to lose weight because she had lost weight. She was anticipating even more weight loss. And in retrospect, I realized that like she wasn't with the program. You know what I'm saying? And even like the family that came with her, I think they also understood that something wasn't all right there. And she ended up buying like multiple dresses and they didn't fit. And then she ended up gaining weight. And it was one of those things that like, it really had nothing to do with the work that was done to the dress, but it's kind of what was just happening to her body. But even so, there are things that I've learned from that experience. And I'm like, okay, note to self, in the future, I added this to my contract. I added this to how I communicate before brides even come in the door. Like, there's a phrase that we use within the membership called being at cause in our business. Like we get to be responsible for all the communication that goes out to clients, how we run the fittings, how we put our contracts together. And it actually like gives us the power back instead of feeling like, we're victims to these scary brides that come in, whatever. There's always something to learn. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to kind of like talk more about that in the symposium and how we can take the power back, because sometimes once we go through these situations, it's like we just want to sit in the corner and cry and we feel defeated and really small. And it's like, okay, you can have a couple minutes and then you got to get up and here's how we move on. And it's only
I'm
because
looking
I've had
forward
these
to this.
situations that I know that I have the tools of how to move forward. You know what I'm saying? I think all of us, like, I'm excited to see Adrienne's resource, the downloadable that she's going to share, because I bet that'll be so helpful. And we know
Yes.
it came from her own experiences,
Yes.
like a real person going through this, and she lived to tell the story. So we all survive
Yes.
it.
Yes. And if you've been in this business long enough, you have had Bridezillas and you
Yep.
and you did not necessarily create them, or
Yep.
maybe you did
Mm-hmm.
and you learned lessons from that. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
all
Yep.
we all do it.
It's got to pick up and keep going. So,
Yes.
and also focus on the good, because we know the good clients always outnumber the not so great. And we just can't let that like taint our vision. So, ooh, yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
So true.
So do you have time to like enjoy the holidays, or are you just going to be like symposium minded, like here
No.
on out? What are you guys
Now,
doing?
here's our goal every year. By December 1st, we want everything. And then we always push it back to December 15th because we don't have everything done, or we're waiting on somebody.
Hmm.
But by December
That's great.
15th, like last year, it was December 1st. We had everything ready so that all we have to do, and the emails are all automated, all we have to do is open the symposium at 12:01 on the day before, first thing in the
Yep.
morning so that it's open for everybody.
Hmm.
And we've gone through it. So we do not let it hijack our Christmas.
Wow,
I
that's
just I
awesome.
just
Good for you.
refuse.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
so we get started on it in June or July and work our, like right now is when we're super crazy getting it all
Mhm.
done
Yep.
so that by December 1st, that's our goal, to be done.
And you can just be Mrs. Claus.
Well, I've got a lot of family, and the whole point of doing this career was so that I could spend more time with my family.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
it's
Are you going to be
it,
up at your cabin for Christmas?
no, our cabin closes the first week of October. It's very
Oh,
high up in the mountains, and they shut down the water. And
no.
so, I
Okay.
mean, you could snowshoe in, but
No.
ours is at the very top of the mountain, and so you can't even. You'd have to dig the door out
Nope. Yeah.
in order to. Yeah.
It doesn't sound very festive.
No, it's not. It's a great summer. We go May usually is a great time, the end of May
Hmm.
until October.
Yeah.
And then it is down. But
Hmm.
yes, I love my cabin. I
Yeah.
love it.
That sounds so perfect. We just wrapped up Fall Fest this past
Yes.
weekend. And so now I'm in Charleston mode, getting ready for because our January retreat is, oh gosh, the 20th, the 21st. See, that's where
Mhm.
mine is. I'm like, it's sometime in January. So the same thing. I just would like everything to be kind of like squared away well before Christmas. So it's like
Yeah.
things booked and done and final payments are in and whatever so that I
Now,
can.
have you got those links for me so I can be promoting that on the symposium?
Oh yeah, well our January retreat's already sold out. So we have a wait
Okay.
list going for our November retreat, which will be in Scottsdale in
Okay.
2025. But then our membership opens back up in March. So right now the membership is closed to new members and then the doors will open again in March. So
I just think the more education we all can have,
yeah.
the better. And so I want
Yeah,
to
I
promote
appreciate that.
everybody and get everybody as educated and well trained as possible.
Yes, and just felt like supported because when you know that
Yes,
you're not the only one out there, it can totally
right.
build that confidence. Like, oh, they go through this too, or oh, there's this tool. When
Yes.
we were in Portland last weekend at Fall Fest, we had a few new gals joining, and they were like, we just had no idea there were all these answers in one room, like all these different experiences and like testimonials that come from those of us who have just been in the business for a few years or 5 years, 10 years, and sharing the tools that we use in fittings every day, like whether it's like physical sewing tools or how to navigate a sticky situation, like having resources and knowing that other people go through the same thing is awesome. And I know I've talked about this before in the podcast, but when I was a teacher, we would have these conversations in the staff room or we would talk about stuff over lunch, and it was like daily I was hearing that so and so's also struggling with this particular student, or I have a conference with this mom, oh look out, she's scary, you know what I mean? So it's like that support was built in, and then when you
Mhm.
work alone it's like, oh, I don't have anybody to talk about this stuff with. So
It's
anything
true.
like this is so helpful, and even just getting all the faces on one screen for the symposium would be great. So I'm excited. So thank you for
Yes.
inviting me. I'm so excited. This will be fun.
Yes. I'm excited to have you on,
Yeah.
Nadine. I feel quite
Yes.
honored to have you on the symposium.
Thank you
I,
for asking. I was like, oh, so delighted when that came in my inbox. So if
yes.
you're listening, there's still time to register. So the registration link is in the show notes, or you can head to theandersonacademy.com and learn more information, but it's free. So you might as well just sign up. So listeners, we will see you at the symposium in
Yes.
January.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And if you're feeling really generous, leave a review. Thanks, everyone.